Hello and welcome to another day on Cornwall Pocket Farm, where I try and figure out how to live sustainably on 300 square metres in the city. Today it's another one in my capsule wardrobe series, number 5 is it? I've really been enjoying making these videos and you seem to be really enjoying them too, so I'm really pleased to bring you another one. It does actually take a little bit of time. Obviously if you're watching these back months, years later, they'll all be there all neatly so you can watch them all one after the other, but if you're following along as I do it, it does take a little bit of time in between. Because of course this isn't my day job. I mean, you know, I've sort of fit this in on the weekends and evenings and things like that. And this is the Sophia dress. So this is the dress that I have chosen and made for my daughter's Western wedding. Now I should explain that because I had a lovely comment from somebody saying that in their mind they had this idea of sort of John Wayne striding through and like cowboys and, you know, hold them up and all that sort of stuff. And it's not a Western like that, of course. It's not a themed wedding or anything. It's just that her other ceremony at the time is her Indian wedding because she's getting married to an Indian gentleman. So sort of we call this the Western wedding, but I don't know, European wedding, non-Indian wedding, I don't know what you would call it, but hey, Western wedding has stuck. And the Western wedding is being held in, I don't know what they call them in Germany, but in the UK you'd call them something like on an allotment. It's sort of, it's like community gardens, and everybody has their own little garden, and then they can have a little sort of what we would call a batch here, which would be like a little shed or a cottage or anything on the allotment. You can stay for weekends, but you can't live there essentially. So it's this system of all these little community gardens, and what they have is actually a community house at the centre of it, and you can hire that out, and that's actually where the wedding is going to be, in this little community house that is surrounded by these lovely gardens. So the theme for the wedding was very much sort of garden party, I suppose you'd call it. It's obviously going to be in the daytime amongst these gardens, so that's why I chose a fabric that was sort of green and floral. And then, as you saw in a previous video when I was talking about all of the items from my capsule wardrobe, I've named this one the Sophia because it sort of reminds me a little bit of Sophia Loren. I don't know why. These are just the sort of the vibe that it's giving me. So anyway, this video is all about the sort of the fitting, because oh golly, I should actually tell you about this dress. So the pattern that I've used, what's the number? Don't know the number, and I don't have it to hand. I will put it on the screen, the picture of it anyway, and the number. So this particular pattern I have made before, and it was a terrible fit. I mean, it was atrocious. It was unredeemable. I mean, literally I just chopped the top off and made a skirt out of the skirt because the skirt was really nice. The fabric was really nice. But yeah, a terrible fit. And so I knew that going into this, so I was determined to make several sort of mock-ups and try and figure out a good fit for this dress, because I like the dress. I really like the picture. It's just when you make it, it doesn't turn out anything like that. Well, on me anyway. So I did a range of mock-ups, and that's shown in this video. Obviously I'm videoing this bit after I've shot all the other pieces of the video. One of the things that you can't see in the final reveal is the buttons, because I was really pleased with the buttons. I got the buttons from a sort of a company that sells like old unsold buttons from like years ago. I don't know where they get them from, but they're sort of like these old tubes of old vintage buttons, if you like. So I bought it from there, and they're just such a beautiful match with the dress, so I'm really pleased with that. I'll show you them close up. I just thought they were just a beautiful match. They're the same colour, they pick up the flowers, really lovely. So I'm happy with the way it's turned out. It did take quite a bit of effort to get the fit right, but I'm really happy with the results. I think it fits really nicely. And yeah, the final product I'm really happy with. Anyway, let's get into the video and I'll show you how I did it. This is the first attempt, the first mock-up if you like. What I did was I took this bodice part from my bodice block, and then the joining piece
this bit here where this joins, I took that curve off the actual pattern and off the bodice from the pattern. This yoke piece I've taken directly from the pattern. But as you can see, the yoke meets the bodice at a really weird place. I imagine this is supposed to go underneath the boob, not sort of straight through the middle of it. Anyway, so what I've done is I have used a marker pen to sort of mark roughly the line. And then this piece I sort of feel should come down a bit. So I've sort of done a rough line here to sort of give me a new cutting line on this bodice block. And then the other thing that I've done, this is going to be really tricky to show you. I'm going to try and film this over the top of my shoulder. So I have changed the neckline at the back as well. I've used the neckline from the top that I made on the Audrey. I'll put a link to that video if you haven't seen it, the first outfit that I made called the Audrey. This is for the Sophia dress, and yeah, I'll show you the back if I can figure out how to do it. No, I'll need to turn the camera around, won't I? Okay, so can you see the back now? What I have done is I have made it much higher up at the top. So that seems to be fitting reasonably well, I think, but I'll actually have to watch this footage back to see what it looks like properly from the back. But I'm pretty sure that that looks okay. So this is sort of mock-up 2B, if you like. I put the top piece on and it was still really, really baggy up top. So I've actually taken some big pleats out, big chunks of fabric out to make it fit better. I think that's almost there. I think perhaps I've taken it just a little bit too low. Maybe I need to take it just a little bit up. And then also I had some little wrinkles down here. So I've just pinned these out, these wrinkles, and then I'll make those adjustments on the pattern as well. But I'm pretty pleased with that, the way it's working now. Obviously this has got a wrinkle because I got my arm in the air. But on this side, I think it's quite smooth. I don't feel that it's going to flop about or fall off, and I feel like that's a reasonable fit. This obviously will be cut lower because it obviously has the seam allowance, you know, the facing and everything on here. So it'll be a little lower than that as well. Yeah, but I'm quite pleased with that. Probably pleased enough to go to the main fabric, I think. I think any adjustments that I need to make, I can probably make on the main fabric. I haven't changed the back because I was happy with the way the back was looking. I have laid out all the pattern pieces on the fabric. Unfortunately, the fabric was quite narrow, which I hadn't realized. And these skirt pieces, I don't know if you can see them, but they're really quite wide. So I've ended up having to do it the other way around, so sort of sideways, if you like. I think the pattern is forgiving enough. There are lots of flowers all over the print, and there's not really a sort of a right way up for any of them. So I'm hoping that it will work okay like this. I've put the bodice pieces on here that I've worked out. But I've actually laid this one, this piece, which is the piece that goes around the front, around the middle section, that I've actually turned the other way around because there, even though it's a woven, there's a little bit more stretch this way than there is this way. So I just thought that this piece would be better here so that there was a bit more stretch across it, just, you know, for breathing, things like that, and eating a bit more dinner or something. Yeah, so the rest of them I've put on that way up, but yeah, to cutting out now. Okay, so I have put the interfacing on the facing pieces and I've sewn those together. I have done the joining of the
the sort of the gathery bust bit that comes around here, and now I'm just putting the back and the front together. I suppose I should try it on and test fit it, but maybe I'll just do a few more seams and then do it before I find out the reality that it doesn't fit very well. Hopefully it will work. Anyway, let's get these seams done. So this is my Bernina. I did know the number of it, but I don't know as I do now. If I can remember what it is, I'll put it on the screen. But it's quite an old Bernina. I think it was made in the 1980s or something. It's actually, oh, here we go. It's an 830. It's written on the machine. It's a Bernina 830 made in Switzerland. So I like my machine. It doesn't do any fancy stuff, but it does what it does very well. So let's try sewing this seam. Okay, there's one. The good thing about having a tiny sewing room is that everything is to hand. Very rarely you need to stand up in this place. But it's a bit challenging trying to film. I have to say, this place is not designed for filming. And I should tell you about my little wrist pin cushion. This is wonderful, and daughter number one made it for me actually. I think it's made out of a jam jar lid and some old scrap fabric, and I think it's stuffed with scrap fabric too. And then there's just a little bit of elastic goes around. The elastic's got a bit floppy now, so it does tend to move around. Maybe I should just move it up my wrist some more. But it's very useful. I do like it. Okay, those seams first. Seam, I just need to trim these now and then turn it over and do the inside of the French seam, and that should be done. As I say, everything is very close together in my sewing room. Technically, I can sit there and iron here at the same time. Well, not at the same time. I can sit there, sew something, turn around, iron it. I can turn around the other way and overlock it, and then turn back and iron it, all without leaving my chair, which is a swivel chair. But I don't tend to do that. Oh, and I could actually turn around and actually do something on my table as well. It's that small. One day I should actually do you a tour of my sewing room video, shouldn't I? Just to see how much stuff I get in this tiny room. Because it is not only my sewing room, it is also HQ for the garden. All my camera, like my camera film equipment, tripods and things are in here. Plus my winemaking equipment is also in here, and it also functions as a laundry because the clothes rack and the ironing board is also in here. So it's a pretty busy room. and my bin is just down here. So when I'm dropping things down there, I'm actually dropping them into my bin. And I just turn around and I can use my overlocker. Now I'm just doing the edges on this. They're going to be inside, so I'm not going to bother changing all my thread on here, which is navy. So it's going to look a bit silly, but you really won't see it because it'll be on the inside of the garment. So I'm going to do that. I also need to finish all of the edges. I might overlock it. Won't hurt, will it? Hopefully not. You never know with these things. Could hurt. Just to jump in here, just to let you know that that actually did matter. When I actually put the dress together, you could see the dark overlocking through the fabric, which I really didn't think you were going to be able to do, but you could. So I ended up trimming all of that overlocking off and then just folding it of fabric over twice and stitching it down. So these things happen when you make things, but when you make your own clothes, you can fix it. So that was great. I just, yeah, did a little workaround and everything was fine. Anyway, back to the video. Right, just that end along there, I think. Okay, and then I'm just going to turn that over and stitch it down so you won't see it. That's the plan. Yeah.
So that's the top. I'm pretty pleased with that. I think that's working quite nicely. It all seems to fit the right sort of size. I don't have this massive sort of gathering everywhere. I've taken quite a lot of that out. That's the back. My arm's up, so it's not particularly flat, but I think that is, yeah, I'm quite pleased with that. So I've got some finishing to do, just to sort of neaten up some things. But yeah, I think that'll do. Onto the skirt.
Okay, so I'm sewing the skirt together, and I should also say at this point that I'm not following the instructions on the pattern. I mean, I'm sort of vaguely aware of the instructions, if you like, but I'm not following them, and that's because last time I made this, I tried so hard to stick to the instructions, and they were really, really complicated and badly written, I think, and I have actually seen on the internet a lot of other people saying that they don't make sense. So I'm sort of just going with how I know how to do these things, and yeah, it seems to be working out okay at the moment. I could actually wish that I hadn't said that in the future, because it all could go horribly wrong, but for the minute it seems to be okay.